Your opinion of the bracket is what? What's your opinion of it?
I don't think Oregon got the best draw for being the only undefeated team. If you look at their half of it, as it is there, you got Tennessee. Tennessee's really talented. Ohio State is loaded. Clemson, the Dabo's won 2 national, and then Texas came within a play of basically playing for the national title last year. Whereas on the other side, it's Georgia, and then the only other team I think has similar level of athletes, maybe not as much, is Penn State. Notre Dame's a good team, but just in terms of that, it feels like there's more of the powerhouse side on the Oregon piece of it. Now, I still think Oregon, they would be my pick to win it all. That's why I picked when I saw the bracket. They have the quarterback I would trust the most in a big game, and that's Dylan Gabriel. They have a lot of the same caliber, elite, big people that Georgia has, maybe not quite as many of them, but they have a really good scheme, and they're extremely well coached. I think Dan Lanning has just a really, really good feel for his players, and they never look tight, which is they look like they're always ready to play, which I wouldn't say the same for a lot of these other teams.
Well, I mean, we had Ward Manuel on Monday, the CFP selection committee chair and the AD at Michigan. He came on and he said, and you probably know this already, but I'll just say it just to set up the rest of our conversation here, is that they just ranked them and then they popped them in order in the bracket. And the ranking came up the way it did based on factors that they all voted on without knowing where they would land. And then, so be it that it's a tougher path for Oregon than it happened for Georgia because, Ohio State lost a non-conference game. Didn't lose a non-conference game. They lost a game to an unranked opponent. They put them there, and so it was them in Tennessee. And then Texas fell with Clemson as well, right there on that side of the bracket for Oregon. And, Ohio State fans are pissed because it seems like Penn State is an easier path than Ohio State, and Penn State lost to Ohio State. That's just basically the way it is because they're mandated to put teams in the byes where based on the fact that they won conference championships, so on and so forth. That's what he said. So.
Yeah, and I think that's the part that may get undone on the next contract is the shoehorning teams from perceived lesser conferences that are getting shoehorned up into slots where they're not in the rankings. In this case, it was certainly Boise State. And when you had that with Arizona State as well, I mean, Arizona State, both teams are great stories, especially Arizona State. They were preseason picked to finish last in the Big 12, and now they're getting a first-round bye in the playoff. And they're a hot team, like the way they play down the stretch. But I think that piece of it I wouldn't expect to see this again because it definitely muddied up how the bracket unfolded in terms of that. Now, look, it may work in the best interest of the SEC and Georgia. We'll see. Carson Beck's questionable, because of his elbow injury. We'll see if he's actually going to be able to play. I can't wait to see how this tournament plays out. I think it's hard to look and go, okay, would Indiana be the upset pick I would pick to knock off Notre Dame in the first round? I mean, I would hope to see that there'll be some kind of upset, in this bracket or a big upset. I don't know that we're going to see it just because college football is way different from college basketball, where you get like somebody gets cold, somebody gets hot, and that changes it. But, we're in the infancy stages of a 12-team playoff. And because of that, you're getting this, you can't please everybody. I get it. They wanted to have these first-round byes for conference champs, and it's they're going to learn from it, I think, and they're going to probably reevaluate it as soon as they can.
Well, I mean, just to finish it up, I think the biggest upset would be any of the teams that don't get a bye winning it all. That would be the upset because just again, for Ohio State or Tennessee, just using that as an example right there, for them to beat the other and then have to go beat Oregon and then go beat whoever comes out of the other part of the bracket and then arguably Georgia. Name me any team in college football that would have a 4-game stretch during their regular season of scheduling to have that tough a stretch. Like it doesn't exist because of the lesser opponents they face within their conference or the non-conference people they purposefully set up to prop up their record. Like you
don't lose. Well, don't lose 2 games in your and come out without winning your conference title. I mean, they don't have. I mean, they could blame that. I mean, don't lose to Michigan if you're don't lose to a basically a 500 team at home. I mean, that's that. I mean, if you're like Lane Kiffin did a lot of complaining about, but they lost at home to Kentucky. Kentucky didn't beat any other team in the SEC. It's one thing to have one of those. If you have that couple with other losses, it's hard to feel too bad about Alabama. They got blown out on the road by 3 touchdowns against a really mediocre Oklahoma team on top of losing to Vanderbilt and on top of another loss. So, again, I think it's harder to feel too bad for the teams that, have multiple losses and didn't even, make it to their conference championship game.
Catch the Rich Eisen Show every single day on the Roku Channel, 12 to 3 Eastern, for free.